thought I'd take this opportunity, since I have the gym to myself, and that rarely happens, to record something that I've been meaning to record for a while. I started listening to this audiobook that really fucking blew the lid off of some stuff. And it'll probably be the impetus of many articles and podcasts to come, because basically what this book has opened me up to has shifted me fundamentally. So basically I'll be bringing that into lots of things that I talk about, as I do with all the things that have shifted me. But I'm calling this one more nothing than something. Oh, someone's coming in. They're going to think I'm a weirdo because I'm talking to myself. Should be pretty used to it by now anyway. More nothing than something. So, the reason I immediately like this book is because it immediately started talking about the stuff that I already knew, which I will just summarize as E equals MC squared. It talks about us being quantum beings and how we're, basically made of some atomic particles. It's pure physics. At the core of it, it's pure physics. Like, if you want to take the spirituality out of it, totally do that. I don't, because, there has to be, for me, there has to be a bigger reason. There has to be a higher power. There has to be a force greater than myself. And for me, as I've already talked about in my article, that's energy. So this book immediately spoke to me in those quantum concepts of who we actually are. But one of the first things it said that just made me kind of stand up like a meerkat and look around going, what the fuck? Oh my God. Let me sink my teeth into that. It simply said we're more nothing than something. Now, even if you haven't taken a class in quantum mechanics and quantum physics, to wrap your head around this, we have to imagine an atom. An atom has a nucleus that is protons, positively charged ions, and neutrons, very dense, non-charged. And then swirling around that nucleus are electrons. These are negatively charged ions. Now, the position of an electron cannot be defined. We put them into orbitals, depending on how many protons and neutrons and electrons there are. But their precise position can never be defined. They are constantly moving around the nucleus. And I'll do my best to put up some pictures to kind of help this concept become real. Because you really kind of have to see it. So you just have these swirling little ions around a nucleus. Carbon has 6, I believe. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. So you have to have, obviously, maybe that's not so obvious. You have to have the same number of protons and electrons to have a net neutral charge. So every element on the periodic table has a given number of protons, neutrons, and electrons. And that's what makes them all different. But it also is what makes them all the same. Ironically, it just has different numbers of these atomic particles. But the fact of the matter is that all atoms have a really dense core and then a swirling mass of electrons around them. So at a quantum level, we are more nothing. The space, the cloud of space that these electrons create as they move around the dense core of the nucleus, than something. Now you can actually see this in lots of physics experiments, because if you shoot a photon through any atom, you're gonna almost always hit nothing. The photon's gonna go straight through it because it is more nothing than something. This is the physics that basically drives the Large Hadron Collider. You're just trying to get two things to bang into each other, and it doesn't happen very often because we are more nothing than something. Okay, so there's the background. Real life example. I don't know. Okay, brief history about me. I've lost a lot of weight. I've lost a lot of weight, and I like to describe it as I lost half my body weight and gained an eating disorder. So, yeah, there's a lot of shades of gray. If you can't hear it, and that pause, lots of stuff I'm not saying. So, here's my real life example. If I'm more nothing than something, why the fuck do I put so much value, so much of my self-worth on a number, on a scale? That number is completely bullshit. The number that we see on a scale is a symptom of a root cause, and that root cause is the system of our life. It's our lifestyle. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that number on the scale as I've watched it go down and down and down and down and plummet, as I have seen the number stay the same, but my body inches, the measurements of my body change, but the number stays the same. I've seen the number on the scale go up when I actually got thinner, when my pant sizes went down. I've seen the reverse happen. I've seen that number go up or down when I actually got bigger. And this is because fat weighs less than muscle. All the while I've been fixated on that number the second I stepped on the scale. But I'm more nothing than something. That number is arbitrarily assigned because of the weight of gravity on the Earth. So our weight on the Earth isn't the same as the weight on the moon, because it has less gravity, much, much less gravity. Whereas on another planet, I think Jupiter, maybe Neptune, has a phenomenally strong gravity field. So we'd weigh triple what we weigh here, over there. It's all relative. But in this simple act of weighing ourselves, in this society, we put so much of our value and self-worth into this number that we see on a scale that completely, it only means what we assign to it. So I ask us all to do this. If you think that I'm talking shit, go ahead and try this. Go and weigh yourself. Let's all step on the scales. We look down at the number. Now, we may think that we're just looking at a number and, oh, yeah, we're fine. That's the number, that's fine. But what do we feel when we see that number? The volume dial. Turn up the small voices that are judging that number in some way, shape, or form. Oh, I was hoping that it would go up a bit. I've been lifting really hard and eating protein, so, I really want to gain weight. Or, oh man, I weigh a kg heavier today than I did yesterday. I shouldn't have eaten that. I should have gone to the gym. I should have done this. I should have done that. All of those shoulda, coulda, wouldas come flying out of us, and it makes us feel not so flash. Now, those emotions change for everybody, but in any single case, if we have those underlying thoughts of this number is not what I want it to be and why, we are devaluing ourselves. We are not happy with the way that we are in some way. So there again, it's the volume dial. If you don't think you hear any of those thoughts or experience any of those feelings, get quiet and listen, because they're there. But hey, conversely, if you can honest to God, get on a scale and not feel or think anything that devalues yourself, good for you. Holy shit. Can you call me and tell me how to do that? Because I cannot do that. But here's some fun real life examples of just numbers in general that we put a lot of our self-value and worth into that don't mean anything. And there's nothing like realizing that numbers don't mean anything, like moving to a different country where the scales change. So here, we get weighed in kg. I'm from the States where we get weighed in pounds. So immediately, first time I stepped on a scale in New Zealand, I realized how arbitrary the number was because I was looking at a number that didn't actually mean anything to me. I had no idea how many pounds were in a kg. So as I sat there looking at this number that I couldn't assign a value to because it had no reference point for me, it really struck me just how useless and arbitrary that number was. And it wasn't until I started being able to understand what that weight was in pounds and then relate it back. Or I've lived in New Zealand for 4 years now, so now that weight has a meaning. Another one. So it's no secret, I've written about it on my other blog quite a bit. I had an eating disorder. This eating disorder was centered around the fact that I counted calories and weighed and measured everything I ate for years. It would take me 4 hours a day to prepare my food. And it all centered around counting calories. Well, here, I came to the grocery store and turned over the label like, oh, yep, how much is a serving? How many calories is it? What are the macros? And I look, and it's a phenomenal number. It's like 1,000 something, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why is this food so calorically dense? And then I realized that it's measuring it in kilojoules, not kilocalories. Once again, the scales changed. I had no idea how many kilocalories were in a kilojoule. I just knew the scales shifted. And that, because I remained willfully ignorant of how many kilocalories was in a kilojoule, that helped me break my habit when I moved to New Zealand. And it gave me a sort of freedom from that. I could count if I wanted to, but the numbers didn't mean anything to me. So I had to rely on how I felt, which is, coincidentally, how we should decide what to eat. If you're hungry, eat a little something. Wait until you're not hungry anymore and then stop. It's really that simple, but I overcomplicated it for many, many years out of the fear of gaining weight. Here's another really fun one, and this one really threw me. The first time I realized I needed an article of clothing in New Zealand, I realized I didn't even know where to go to buy clothes, which was really confronting. I was like, oh my God, which one of these stores has clothes in it? I don't even know. And I was in Nelson, and I decided I needed a pair of jean shorts. So I went into a place called Farmers. Never heard of it before, but it looked like a store, so I went in. And I said, I need a pair of jean shorts. In the States, I'm a size 4. And this woman just looked at me like I had 5 heads. She goes, you look like you might be an 8 or 10 here. And I thought, what? How dare you? I worked hard on this body. I'm not an 8 or a 10. That's huge. And I said, well, what's the smallest size you have? And she said 6. And I think, oh my God, what the hell's going on? Am I doomed to have to wear huge pants here? A 6 will be huge on me. But my reference had changed. I go into the changing room and try on a 6, and I couldn't even get one of my fucking calves into these pair of shorts. And I start freaking out. True to my nature of who I was then, and I cannot stress that enough, because I'm not that person anymore. And it's quite funny to look back and think about it. I was like, oh my God, am I fat? Did something happen? No. The sizes are just different here. Turns out, buying pants in New Zealand in general is always a bit of a chore because I'm always between an 8 or a 10, or now I'm between a 10 and a 12. So, pants don't quite fit me here. I usually have to have my mom send me something from the States. But I am proud that my pant size has gone up. Here's another reason why the weight on the scale is bullshit. Because the second you have a salty meal, or a fatty meal, or a carby meal, our bodies take on water. Up to 2 kgs of it. So our weights can fluctuate from morning to night, or night to morning, every day, up to 2 to 3 kg. And I would argue that if your weight, 3 kg is probably about the upper limit. But we tend to freak out, especially if we have goals of losing or gaining weight. Like, sweet, I've gained that 3 kg I wanted. Oh God, I've gained 3 kg. How's that even possible? Swallow some lemon juice and a whole bunch of water, and I'm willing to bet it'll come off in a day. Or just take a huge dump. I mean, honestly, that's usually all it takes. Water weight can be phenomenally heavy, and it's just a reflection of what we've eaten in the last 24 hours, or haven't eaten. Everybody's seen jockeys dehydrate themselves to absolute stupors. Sorry, that triggers bad behavior in myself. But either way, the weight on a scale is a symptom. It's not the root cause. If we live a healthy lifestyle and with healthy, positive thoughts of who we are, the weight on the scale is completely arbitrary. It's only going to go up or down significantly if we change our lifestyle. And it doesn't matter if that's that we want to gain weight or we want to lose weight. We have to change our lifestyle to change our weight in a significant way. Otherwise, we can expect just to be within our average. I'm between 60 and 62 kg. No matter what. No matter if I had a huge meal at Macca's the night before or whether I've basically starved myself for a week, that number does not change because I have not changed my lifestyle. And that is the only, should I say, comforting thought that kind of keeps me out of that dangerous eating disorder mindset. So what's a new concept? How can we make the fact that we are more nothing than something work for us instead of against us? Let's focus on that nothing that we are and use it to allow ourselves to change. Because think of all that free space. All that space that's available that this magnificent little electron creates. That electron creates that free space by circling around our nuclei in predictable patterns, but not distinct patterns. You can never tell where that little bugger's going to be. He's a wild card. He does whatever he wants. That little electron. He is such a cool little guy. He is flexible. And he creates space. And there's so much we can do with those spaces. We can create new choices. We can create new habits. We can break old habits because we can just give them to that space. Say, oh, I've got all this extra space. I've got all this extra thinking space, all this extra being space, all this extra feeling space. For me, I stopped counting because I'm able to trust in that free space that I create every day. I don't need to. My lifestyle on the whole is healthy. On the whole, I make healthy choices. I rely on that. And when I feel anxious about what I've eaten or the number I see on the scale, I just think, nah, doesn't matter. I'm worth something than nothing, and I can make a different decision tomorrow. There's so much potential in the nothing. Limitless potential in that free available space. So much flexibility. We can be different because we are different. Every morning, every single one of us wakes up a different person than we were the day before. And that is simple physics, chemistry, and biology. Every morning we wake up and some of our cells are dead and we have new cells. Every morning, the alpha waves and delta waves and theta waves of our deep sleep have reset our brains, have created memories, have lost some memories. We literally wake up someone different every day. Let's use it to our advantage. Instead of clinging to these definite numbers that don't actually have any meaning, because we are more nothing than something. The irony is that I personally find more value in nothing now. My self-worth and my value is deeply ingrained in that space, that nothing part of me. Because the something just keeps me too bound and too restricted. Now that's just for me. This is what keeps me comfortable. In a world of constant change, and in a world where I felt endless anxiety because of the constant change, the comfort I feel now is that in those nothing spaces, which take up the vast majority of who I am, I also change every single nanosecond. Every single one of my electrons and every single one of my cells is swirling and creating space. It's a bit mind-blowing to think about, but that's kind of the point. Because otherwise we're going to keep doing what we've always done because we don't know a different way to be. This is our creative potential. Get into it.